Clara's grip tightened on the letter. Elliot, we're not alone. The air in the clearing thickened, heavy with an unnatural stillness. Elliot felt the fine hairs on his arms prickle as the wind carried a whisper. Too deliberate, too human. A branch snapped again, closer this time. Something or someone was watching them. Elliot swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. We need to go. Now. Clara stuffed the letter into her pocket, and they quickly closed the chest, covering it back with dirt. Just as they turned, a low voice sliced through the darkness. You shouldn't have come here. The flashlight trembled in Elliot's grip as he swung it toward the sound. A figure stood just beyond the tree-line, shrouded in shadow. The beam of light caught the edges of a weathered coat, a hood obscuring most of the face. The stranger took a step forward, the leaves crunching under heavy boots. Clara clenched Elliot's arm. Who are you? She demanded, though her voice wavered. The figure didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his pocket and produced something that glimmered in the light. A small, rusted key. You found it, didn't you? His voice was rough, like someone who hadn't spoken in a long time. Elliot took a hesitant step back. Found what? The man chuckled, the sound dry and humorless. The chest. My father's chest. Elliot's breath caught in his throat. His mind raced. His grandfather's letter. Had it been meant for someone else? Was this man connected to him? Or worse, was he here to take the treasure by force? Clara wasn't waiting for answers. She tugged at Elliot's arm, whispering, We need to get out of here. But before they could move, the man spoke again, softer this time. He wanted you to find it, but he didn't want you to keep it. A sharp gust of wind howled through the trees, and suddenly, the flashlight flickered. The shadows around the man seemed to stretch and distort. Elliot's heart pounded as unease slithered down his spine. Who was your father? He asked cautiously. The man took another step forward, the moonlight catching his face for the first time. His features were rugged, his beard peppered with gray, his eyes dark and unreadable, but there was something familiar in them. My name is Samuel, the man said. Your grandfather was my father. Elliot's world tilted. He barely managed to stammer. That's not possible. My grandfather never mentioned having a son. Samuel sighed, running a hand over his weathered face. Because I left long before you were born. He didn't talk about me. He thought I was lost to the past. He gestured to the ground where the chest had been. But that treasure, that letter, it was his way of reaching me. Clara and Elliot exchanged glances. The air around them felt charged with something neither of them could name. Samuel continued. That chest holds more than trinkets. It's proof. Proof of the life he never spoke about, the choices he made, and the regrets he carried. Elliot felt like he was standing on the edge of something vast and unknown. If he left it for you, why didn't you come back sooner? Samuel's jaw tightened. Because I was afraid of what I'd find, of what I'd lost. His voice wavered, a hint of sorrow beneath the grit. But now that it's been found, I need to finish what he started. Elliot hesitated. The chest, the letter, his grandfather's words, had they really been meant for this man all along? And if so, what did that mean for him? Clara finally broke the silence. What do you want us to do? Samuel stared at them for a long moment before speaking. There's something else buried here, something he left for me, and you're going to help me find it. A cold knot of dread twisted in Elliot's stomach. What are we looking for? Samuel's gaze darkened. The truth. With reluctant agreement, the three of them began digging again, the night pressing down on them. Elliot's arms ached as he shoveled damp earth aside, but his curiosity kept him going. Samuel worked silently, his movements sure, like he knew exactly what he was looking for. Then Clara gasped. There's something here. She scraped away the dirt with her hands, revealing the edge of another wooden box, smaller than the first. Unlike the chest, this one was locked with a heavy metal latch. Samuel didn't hesitate. He pulled the rusted key from his pocket and slid it into the lock. Clicked open. Inside, wrapped in layers of cloth, was an old leather journal. Samuel's hands trembled as he lifted it out. He flipped through the pages, his eyes scanning hastily scrawled notes, maps, and symbols. His breath caught as he found a letter, tucked in the final pages. He read it silently, his face tightening with emotion. When he finally looked up, his eyes glistened. "He never forgot me," Samuel whispered. "He wanted me to find my way back." Elliot and Clara remained quiet, sensing the weight of the moment. Samuel exhaled and closed the journal. This isn't just about treasure. It's about legacy, choices, mistakes. He turned to Elliot. "You were meant to find that chest, but this was meant for me." Elliot nodded slowly. For the first time, he saw beyond the mystery, beyond the adventure. This wasn't just about finding something hidden. It was about discovering something that had been missing all along. As dawn broke through the trees, Samuel reached into the journal and pulled out a final note, handing it to Elliot. The paper was fragile, but the words were strong. "The greatest treasure is not buried in the earth, but in the bonds we forge and the lessons we pass on. If you have found this, know that love, no matter how lost, is never truly gone." A lump formed in Elliot's throat. He looked at Samuel, then at Clara. They had started this journey searching for riches, but in the end, they had uncovered something far more valuable. Samuel closed the journal, tucking it under his arm. "I have a lot to make up for," he said, "but this is a start." Elliot smiled. "Maybe it's not just a start. Maybe it's a second chance." As they left the clearing behind, the forest no longer felt ominous. The shadows no longer whispered threats. Instead, they carried the echoes of something new: hope.